Letterhead designs are one of the core elements of an identity system. This also includes other elements such as business cards, envelopes, hanger tags, coasters, CDs, logo, anything that you're using to promote your business. Your letterhead design should match the other elements in your identity system to keep your branding consistent. From the cover letters that you send out to get a job to the invoices you mail out to get paid, your communications should be printed on your stationery, and they should be sent in your envelopes. This is going to reflect a professional identity. Letters printed on letterhead are considered official documents. A reference from an employer or a warning from a lawyer uses letterhead to establish the legitimacy of the content. Likewise, when you send out bills to your clients or inquiries to potential employers or clients, a well-designed letterhead reflects your seriousness of purpose. If you want to create a style for your business that speaks about what your business is all about, coordinate your business cards and envelopes to create a visual identity package. Before you lay out your letterhead, though, you must define elements that you plan to include on it. Beyond the names of the organization, the symbol and logo, and the defining tagline, consider including the department or division name, street address, floor, suite, or mail stop, an alternate P.O. box, zip code, country code, a voice phone with extension number, a toll-free phone number, fax number, mobile number, email address, website address, office hours, time zone, and the pronunciation of unusual names. You don't have to include all of these things, but they're just ideas of some things that you might want to include. You definitely want to choose a typeface for the letterhead, and this should be one that complements the typeface that you choose for your logo. If you use a serif for your logo and font choice, then a sans serif typeface is going to work well for the supporting text on your letterhead. Remember that it should serve a supporting role, so choose a typeface that doesn't compete or overwhelm your logo type, and one that is also easy to read. You want to decide on the number of colors to use. If you're going to use a commercial printer, they're going to either be reproducing color using 4-color or Pantone colors. The 4-color process uses cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. This combination of colors can be screened to represent a multitude of color values across the spectrum. This method is best for printing color photographs and any other material that contain a range of colors that cannot be reproduced using 2 or 3 solid colors. The limitations with a 4-color process is that it cannot reproduce some colors as vividly and is typically a little bit more expensive than the solid color method. Your other option is to use the solid Pantone colors. There are over 1,000 solid Pantone colors, and you can use a Pantone book or a formula guide to choose the color you want, and then provide the numbers to the printer, and then they'll buy the containers of that specific ink and print your job using it. You're always going to be assured that the color that you pick is the color that you get. The other thing that you need to make a decision on is choosing your paper. This can also affect the color and the cost. Once you have these pieces of information, you're ready to experiment with the layout. When you start to experiment with the layout, you want to capture an essence of your company's purpose and style. This is your brand and identity, and it lets customers know just how professional your company is. Here's some tips for designing an effective letterhead for your business. The first thing you want to do is keep it simple. Too many special effects overshadow your message or professionalism. You want to make a letterhead design for your company that most effectively serves the needs of your company. Do not overuse complex effects that call attention to themselves. Use such enhancements sparingly. Create a logo that points out your company's strengths. A logo should not stand out on its own as a piece of artwork because that's not really its purpose. You also want to design a letterhead that is readable. A letterhead showcases the name of your company, which means the choice of font, size, color, and style are all very important. Stay away from really fancy fonts. You want the name to stand out, not the font. It's generally a good idea to make the company address within the letterhead a smaller font, but try using a different style of the same font family, or perhaps a different yet complementary font to generate visual interest. Use color and graphics only as needed. Incorporate any graphic or image within the design of of the logo. Rather than placing it at some position at the top of the page, pick an image related to the company's business. Color should be used to emphasize the name of the company and not placed here and there to fill up space. Blank white space is always important too. Incorporate any graphic or image within the design of the logo. Try to pick an element that supports your logo, or perhaps is even a portion of it. You can position it anywhere on the page that makes sense for it to be used. Pick an image related to the company's business. Also, pick a color that is used to emphasize the name of the company and not placed here and there just to fill up space. Remember that white space is important. You want to add only the necessary details. What do you want your customer to know from looking at the letterhead? You'll want the company's name, phone number, physical address, email address, and web address, but not much else. Leaving out extra information will keep the look of your letterhead clean and readable, and make sure the information on the letterhead is correct. Get the correct amount printed. First, you want to make sure that you'll have enough on hand for daily use, but you don't want to print so many that when the details on the letterhead change, perhaps you move and have a new location, or you get a new email address, then you end up throwing out reams of paper that cost you a lot to print in the first place. You'll have to strike a balance between the economics of a large print job and the inefficiencies of paper storage. Avoid the print shop's extra costs. Avoid those design decisions that will end up costing you extra in the actual printing process. You'll have to learn a bit about what constitutes extra work for the printer and what doesn't. For example, full bleed looks very nice. This is where the colors and graphics extend to the edge of the sheet. But in order to achieve this effect, the printer actually uses large sheets of paper and then cuts each one down to the proper size. A small margin around the edge of the graphic therefore will cut down on your printing costs substantially. You want to use the right colors. In line with the tip that we already discussed, if the colors you've selected for the letterhead match those in the Pantone color swatch book, then the print job can proceed in the print shop with no delay. However, if the colors you've selected are not in the Pantone book, the print shop will have to perform some extra work to figure out what color you actually want printed. The Pantone color swatches are available for viewing and selection within many of the Adobe software packages. Let it be noted though, viewing them on a screen is not the same as actually viewing the book. Your screen is going to display the colors in RGB and the book will display the colors in CMYK, the same formula that you'll use when you actually get your job printed. So it's best to reference the book as opposed to the screen. You want to get a press proof. When you work with a print shop, always get a press proof of your letterhead before the printer starts the full 10,000 sheet job. This is basically your last chance to correct any spelling errors, double check that the phone number's right. Reprinting a big print job is very costly. And by going ahead and getting a press proof, you'll also get a good idea of how the colors will actually appear. I also recommend that you separate out the different jobs. You may think you're getting a great discount deal from a printer who's printing your letterhead, your business cards, and your brochures all together for a really fantastic price. But there might be a reason that the price is so low. The printer can cut corners by ganging up your print job on the same type of paper and running them all together. Some cut-rate printers may do just one color match for all the jobs, no matter whether the paper is glossy, matte, coated, or uncoated. Or the printer might just try to sneak some of your jobs on someone else's job where there's some extra paper. Do you want your business cards on the same stock as your letterhead? When you're starting to design a letterhead, a good idea is to take all the elements and move them around on the page. It's not really necessary to create finished designs, just shuffle the pieces around to see what the possibilities are. Once you have some potential solutions, print the pages out to see how well the design works on paper. Designing on a computer screen can be deceiving. Type that looks right on screen is often too big when printed. Printing your design early keeps you from wasting time refining a design that still needs work. Once you know the layout, you should build a grid. This is going to help to determine the final placement of the various elements. A grid is a fundamental part of any layout and is often overlooked by non-designers. A grid is a series of invisible lines that keep all the elements on the page lined up. A grid is really nothing more than a series of columns and rows that can bring structure to your page. Before you finalize it, be sure to test the design. Prove its practicality by inserting the contents of a sample letter. What might appear to be an excellent design can turn up with real problems when you start using it in the real world. Also, fold it into thirds to ensure that the critical graphics in the text are not affected by the creases. Finally, you should refine the proportions of all the elements on the page. Non-designers tend to make their designs too bold by making images and typefaces too large. Remember that it is the food on the plate that most interests the diner, not the plate itself. Likewise, your letter should enhance the experience of receiving the information, not overwhelm it. Let's talk a little bit about envelopes. Don't underestimate the importance of your envelope. When you send unsolicited mail, in the moments between its arrival and the time your prospect decides what to do with it, your envelope is the most important marketing weapon in your arsenal. The envelope as we know it appeared around the 17th century. It has since evolved from a piece of paper cut and folded around a message to a piece of paper that is cut into a standard size, folded and glued around a message. Paying attention to the standard is what ensures that your message gets where you want it to go. If you have specific questions about your mail, the U.S. Postal Service website, USPS.com, is an exhaustive resource for all things sendable. Envelopes come in many sizes and shapes, but this doesn't mean that you should use them or that the post office will mail them, at least not without a cost. The standard business size is the number 10 envelope. It's 9.5 by 4 1/8 inches. This should suit most of your needs. When designing envelopes, consider what you will be mailing. You may need larger envelopes for sending out press kits or proposals. The Postal Service officially defines a letter as being from 5 to 11.5 inches long and 3.5 to 6 1/8 inches high, no more than a 1/4 inch thick and weighing 1 ounce or less. Anything bigger is going to require extra postage. Labels can also be a handy alternative to printing envelopes, as they can be applied to packages, folders, and envelopes of any size. Labels make it easy to reuse old boxes and packing envelopes as well. Depending on your needs, you may want to produce CD labels as part of your overall stationery package as well. When designing envelopes, just like with the previous pieces, the first step should be to define your elements. In most cases, these will be limited to your logo and return address. In some cases, you might also include the defining phrase, but including more than that might make everyday correspondence look like a direct mail piece, which might result in it being discarded. For the rest of the process, you can follow the same steps you used in developing your letterhead and business cards. Use the same typefaces and other components. In most cases, you'll repeat the colors you choose for the letterhead. Sometimes a very effective route will be to reverse the colors from the letterhead. This tends to create a nice complementary scheme and helps the letterhead and envelope to work well together. Repeat the process of moving the elements around on the page and decide on a potential solution and print the page to see how well the design works on paper. Even your envelope should be built on a grid. Be sure that every element is in line. And make sure you always test your design. Consider how the design will look with the addition of postage and the imprinted address or label. Finally, refine the proportions of all elements on the page. The USPS has specific recommendations on how to type the name and address of the recipient to help speed the mailing process. In part, you should use black letters in 10 or 12 point sans serifs typeface. You should type the name and address flush left with the city, state, zip code on one line. Use standard 2-letter state abbreviations and omit punctuation. Here's some additional information about envelopes that you might find useful. When addressing an envelope, the recipient's address and the sender's return address should be parallel to the longest side of the envelope. You want to use either a P.O. box or a street address, but don't include both. Keep the bottom right of the envelope clear. The Postal Service applies a 5/8 inch tall barcode here. 15 sheets of folded paper in an envelope equals approximately a 1/4 inch in height. 1 ounce is around 4 sheets of paper in a number 10 envelope. Envelopes that have rounded corners will not get caught in the mail sorting machines. Square envelopes require extra postage because the sorting machines cannot determine which way the address reads. Hopefully this will allow you to glean a little bit more information about things that might incur more costs when you're thinking about how to send them. Hopefully this should get you up and running in completing your identity package and getting everything to work together in a cohesive design.